little did Barrington know that a week after crossing North Col, he'd be back. They'd got as far as Lake Alabaster and run out of food. There was no choice for Barrington but to struggle all the way back to Lake Wakatipu. In fact, he went back and forth 3 times over the following 2 months. Every time Barrington returned to Lake Alabaster, he was followed by increasing numbers of hopeful prospectors, and they struggled through an unseasonably cold, wet summer. By the middle of March, no one had found even the colour of gold, and the miners were ready to retreat to Wakatipu. Everyone, that is, except Barrington and 2 others, a Welshman, James Farrell, and a Frenchman called Antoine Simonin. And it was these 3, Barrington, Farrell and Simonin, who decided to pit their skills against the challenges of the unmapped, unexplored mountains to the north.
So what have we got for dinner? Anyway.
Bit of salami, crackers. How's that sound?
I think what did Barrington have?
Must have been a better fisherman than me.
Yeah, I would say.
Bastards. So in March 1864, gold miners Alpheus Barrington, James Farrell and Antoine Simonin set off up the Pyke River Valley in South Westland. They had no guides, no maps, and no possibility of rescue if things went wrong. The irresistible lure of gold had turned these prospectors into explorers.
From here onwards, it's all unknown as far as those guys are concerned. This just takes them up the valley through lots of fairly gnarly swamp, really. Lots of flax, floods badly, lots of sandflies and mosquitoes.
Making it sound gorgeous.
Yeah, I know.
March the 17th. The mountains around here being very steep, the water rushes down it as fast as it falls, the river thus rising and falling quickly. About 9 o'clock at night, we were forced to clear out of the tent, pack up our provisions and swags and put them up in a tree, we taking to the bush for our lives.
It rained for 6 days straight, which is not unheard of in a Westland summer. But can you imagine it? Kitted out in woolen tweed, scratching and smelling, heavy canvas swags, constantly wet tents. It must have been torture for the 3 of them. It went on for days. Stinks. Now I'm getting trench foot.
Not loving this.
It took the 3 men 8 days to get the 10 kilometres up the Pyke River Valley to Lake Wilmot, which they called Lake Plenty because, hey, there were plenty of eels and ducks. Fortified, the men made better progress and they quickly reached the Gorge River, where there were promising signs.
March 29th. Started prospecting this morning. The creeks look very well for gold. Splendid quartz boulders and a fine wash. We could not get the bottom anywhere, as it is too deep.
Jeff Spearpoint and Kim Logan have decades of experience in the mountains. River crossings are no problem to these guys. It's deep, it's fast, and it's bloody cold.
April 6. Some fine-looking beaches, soft bottom. Could get gold almost anywhere. Secured 2 very handsome specimens.
The theory is you swirl it around in the pan with the water. You take out the bigger gravel and all that sort of stuff and let it wash down until it sits. The gold being heavier sits at the bottom of the pan. And then just wash it away until you see the colour in the bottom of the pan, like this. And unfortunately, they seem to be colour-free. Nothing to do with my fantastic technique, of course.
April 7. We did not get enough gold to entice us to stop, as we believed there was better gold farther to the northeast.
But the weather turned foul again, and they couldn't move for a week.
April 12. continued to rain all day. No game. Consequently, nothing to eat. Here was the first place our dog turned traitor to our cause. When we took him in the bush to hunt for kakapo, which is our chief food, he would go and catch one, stop, eat it, and then he would not hunt any more for us.
Bastard.
You know, one of the most amazing things about Barrington was that he had this indefatigable spirit. The hardships were awful, but he kept a sense of humour. And I'm just going to read something that he wrote the very next day after the dog had sort of stopped hunting for them. And he wrote something which I think is delicious. Turned out early, still raining, killed a robin and 3 wrens. Roasted them, the smallest joints I ever saw. Very lucky this day, he said. So somehow he was still enjoying himself and still able to keep his sense of humour. I think it kept him going. Smallest joints I ever saw. Drumstick.
On April 15th, Barrington, Farrell and Simonon broke camp and struggled along the Gorge River until the banks became impassable and they were forced into the hills. From the Gorge River, they made their way over a low saddle to the east, where they climbed a tree and glimpsed a big river in the next valley. It was the Cascade. But getting to it was another story.
We tried hard to reach the river, but could not. Could not light a fire. Went to bed with wet clothes and blankets and no supper. We have had only one kakapo for the last 48 hours.
But the next day, when they finally reached the Cascade River, their spirits rose.
April 18. Prospected and found gold in 2 places. Camped on the flat and dried our blankets and clothes, which have been wet now for a fortnight. Got more gold.
But while they fixated on gold, they missed another treasure that Maori collected from the Cascade. Namu, greenstone.
Jesus, that's heavy. I think that's a bit of nephrite, Namu, jade.
It's a beautiful colour though, isn't it?
Shall we return it back to where it came from?
Yeah, do.
All right. Oh, tears.
With only 4 pounds of oatmeal left, the prospectors' hunger for gold was put on hold, and they moved camp up to a nearby lake hoping to find game. As you can see, it's more a sort of depression, really. Theta Tarn. But here the rain returned. Heavy rain, torrential rain, and it went on, day after day.
April 21st. The lake has risen 4 feet today, and the rivers are at a fearful height. And there is nothing at all here that we can find eatable. Nothing but stones, timber, and water. I am certain we can get payable gold here, if only we can get to work. For the next 4 days, it absolutely pelted down. It got worse and worse and worse. They managed to obtain some food, but only after considerable hardship. And it was here that the first cracks in the triumvirate started. They argued about what they should...
No one could face going back the awful way they'd come. They debated heading out to the west coast, or going over the mountains further east towards Wanaka. But in the end, they decided to go south, over Red Mountain, thinking they'd find a shortcut, straight lining it back to Lake Wakatipu.
So what do you reckon Barrington should have done? Oh, I feel he should have gone to the coast, without question. I mean, that's where the food was, and he knew around Jackson's Bay or Cascade there were sealers there. Oh. So, I mean, it's only a few days walk from here. I mean, crazy to go back, go through all that pain again.
He had this huge argument with these 2 guys, and they argued, obviously, when it rained right here in this spot. And in the end, they made this bizarre compromise, eh?
Yeah. crazy. They panic and they try to find the shortcuts, and every shortcut seems to turn into a nightmare. Doesn't matter what situation you're in.
Yeah.
If you panic, then you're lost, then you really are in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.